Okay, let me ask you something. What if the biggest reason you quit trying to learn new things is because you're actually trying too hard? I know, it sounds kind of weird, right? But today, we're going to dig into this really powerful idea called the 20% rule. And honestly, it might just be the secret to finally mastering whatever you've been putting off.
You know that feeling, right? You get super excited to learn something new. Maybe it's an instrument, a new language, or even coding. You buy all the books, you watch the videos, and then a few weeks in, you just hit this wall. It feels totally overwhelming and you just stop. If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone.
And this right here is the heart of the problem. We have this idea baked into our heads that to be good at something, we have to become some kind of walking encyclopedia on the topic. This need to learn 100% of everything, well, it's the very thing that sets us up to fail before we even get started. But hang on, what if that whole idea is just wrong? What if the path to actually being able to do the thing you want to do doesn't require knowing everything? What if it only takes a tiny, super focused fraction of all that knowledge?
And that fraction is just 20%. Yep, that's it. This one little number is the key. It's the key to unlocking new skills way faster than you thought possible and, finally breaking through that wall of frustration for good.
So this is what we call the 20% rule. You might have heard of it as the Pareto principle, but applied to learning. The idea is really simple, but it's profound. In just about any subject, there are a few vital concepts, about 20% of the material, that are responsible for almost all of the results. So by just zeroing in on and mastering that critical 20%, you can actually achieve 80% of what you wanted to do in the first place.
And you can really see the difference here. The old way, trying to drink from a fire hose and learn 100%, well, that's just a recipe for burnout. You get overwhelmed, you quit. But the 20% rule, that's a focused, smart strategy. You figure out the most important stuff, you master it, and that success, that early win, gives you the confidence and the motivation to just keep on going.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds a little too good to be true, right? How can putting in, technically less effort lead to better results? Well, the answer is all in the science of how we learn. This isn't just a nice idea, it's literally a reflection of how our brains are wired.
It all comes down to this thing called the learning curve. And this is a super fundamental concept. It basically shows that your biggest, most dramatic progress happens right at the very beginning of learning something. You make these huge leaps in your ability with what feels like surprisingly little effort.
And here's what that looks like. That first 20% of your time and your effort, that initial push, it delivers a whopping 80% of your results. Crazy, right? The rest of the time, that other 80% of effort is spent chasing that last little bit, that final 20% of total mastery.
So yeah, the beginning is where all the magic happens. It's the bang for your buck zone. By focusing all your energy on that initial high return phase, you build momentum and a solid foundation so fast it feels like you've unlocked a superpower. You're just taking advantage of the most efficient part of the whole learning process.
All right, so the strategy makes sense. Focus on the vital 20%, ride the steepest part of the learning curve. Got it. But there's a catch. How do we make sure that this new information we're learning actually sticks and doesn't just, go in one ear and out the other?
Here's the final piece of the puzzle, our own biology. See, your brain is this incredibly efficient and kind of ruthless filtering machine. It's getting bombarded with information all day long, so its default setting is to just forget almost everything. It's a survival tactic to save energy. It only holds on to what it thinks is genuinely important and useful.
So you have to actively convince your brain that this new skill is vital. And you can't do that by just passively watching a video. You have to practice while you learn. So if you're watching a tutorial on how to tie a tie, you need to actually have a tie in your hands, practicing the steps as you see them. That physical act of doing sends this loud, clear message to your brain that says, hey, pay attention. We're using this right now. You need to save this.
So let's just put it all together. Here's your playbook. Number 1, the problem. We quit because we think we need to learn everything. Number 2, the strategy. Use the 20% rule to focus on what matters and get 80% of the results fast. And finally, number 3, the method. Practice while you learn. Get your hands dirty to convince your brain to actually save the information.
This whole framework, it's not just some abstract theory. It's a real tool that you can start using, like right now. So the only real question left is, what are you going to master? What's that skill you've been putting off that you're finally going to tackle by focusing on just the vital 20%?